Bobby.
Hi, Lisa. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Oh, just fantastic. You've got a new book out, and we're all excited about it here at Project Freedom Radio Network. I got a poster down below the chat that says The Wolf Song and
Thank you. A wolf song.
a wolf song. When did you get into writing? Let's go there first.
Um, I started writing in. Actually, I started writing in fifth grade.
Wow.
My fifth grade teacher encouraged me to write short stories, and my stepdad was a writer,
Oh, well, that's nice.
so I used to copy him.
Oh, cool.
And then we moved to Israel, and my ability to speak English and Hebrew and all the linguistics got very, very mixed up, and I didn't really have a language to write with at the time.
hmm
It took me many years until I actually learned to write in English, because I was translating from Hebrew.
Oh, I see. Okay.
In 1992 or 3, I started a quartet of autobiographical novels.
hmm
I published one with the Internet Book Company,
Right.
and that was one of the first ebooks.
Wow. Wow. So you've been
Actually,
writing
I
for a
think it
while.
was the first ebook that came out.
You've been
There
writing
was
for
a
a while.
device called the Rocket.
Oh, yeah. And
And then I went to school, and I didn't really know what I was going to do with everything that I had learned in shaman school. And on 11/11/11, it was a sacred day for us, and we're told to work with our power animal.
wow. Yeah, you still with me? Well, we're breaking up a bit here. Yeah.
You're breaking up?
Yeah,
Oh, I'm sorry.
that's okay. Um, we'll continue and see what happens. Maybe it'll clear up. Skype, you can never trust it.
Okay.
It's one of those things.
Yeah, I
Um,
usually have. So, on 11/11/11, I meditated with my power animals, and a wolf that I hadn't dealt with before appeared and told me that he was related to the other wolves that I work with.
mhm.
And he said, "You'll be dealing with me for the next year." And I said, "No, I'm not. Give me my wolf back, please." And he said, "Shut up, listen." And he started imparting the story to me.
Mhm.
And I was like, "Oh my God." I don't even have to make it up. It's there.
Wow.
And for a whole year, he dictated the story, a wolf. And I wrote the last sentence on 11/11/12.
Mhm. Interesting.
We plan to release the book on November 29th, and it went live online on 11/11/13
Wow.
with absolutely no one had any idea what the significance was, but it went live on 11/11/13. It's a divine story, everything that has happened around it. I raised $3,000 from total strangers and friends to self-publish this book at a time when people don't give money for things like that.
Yeah.
So that's my belief. I think it's divine. I think I've been blessed with a story that a lot of people need to hear and need to read. And that's that.
Okay. Let's go through the premise of the book. What's it all about?
Okay. The book is about two girls and spirit wolves that enter their bodies at birth. They encounter a tragedy at about age 10, and after that they're told that they could only meet one every 10 years. So the book actually follows these two girls who become women through periods of every 10 years, every once a decade they meet, and they work with these power animals, and then everyone else, all the other characters in the book, have animals as well. Each chapter has one or two lessons to it.
Mhm.
And those were the things that the wolf did dictate to me. And he said, this chapter is about grace. This chapter is about gratitude. This chapter, you're going to teach them about the bridge to spirit through us. So I was given instructions of what needed to be done for each chapter, and when I finished the book, it was a story. It had a beginning, a middle, and an end.
Wow.
And there was no outline.
Hmm. How do you mean, just for our listeners out there, how do you mean work with them?
I work on the premise that anything you imagined from your heart and your belly is real.
Hmm.
When you're fantasizing from your brain and your ego, that's fantasy.
Hmm.
However, when you're actually imagining from within, and it takes practice, it's kind of like learning how to use your knees when you bend instead of your back. And you use your belly as your brain, you use your heart as your soul, and you have conversations. You have actual conversations with these entities that come to you in your imagination. And my premise is it is real somewhere, somehow, on another dimension, in another lifetime, or perhaps here in the present, in a slightly different dimension that we cannot see.
Right. What about the subtitle there, the story of forgiveness? How does that come in?
Um, the journey that I went through while I was at school had a lot to do with forgiveness. I have the beginning of my workshop is called "We're All Wounded Soldiers," and at one point or another in our lives, we decide we want to heal, that we're sick of carrying this baggage around.
Right.
And during the 4 years of the school with Lynn Andrews, I specifically worked on forgiveness because there were a few things in my life that were really dragging me down. I didn't really care about the other people that I needed to forgive, but they were dragging me down.
Hmm.
And in a wolf song, what happens is that I take my own forgiveness through gratitude and create a metaphor.
Hmm.
And I didn't even know I was doing it.
Right.
I didn't realize I did it until I finished the book and reread it.
I see.
When you need to forgive someone,
Hmm.
and if anyone wants to refer to this forgiveness speech that I have, there's a video on my website that you can go to, lisaosina.com, where I talk about forgiveness. But it's about you. It's not about anyone else.
Right.
And the story is how these two girls realize that they would not be who they are now or then had it not been for the tragedies that occurred and the horrible things that happened to them.
Right.
Through that gratitude, you can reach a place of forgiveness within yourself. I'm not saying you can go to that person and say, I forgive you.
Hmm.
I don't even know if you need to. I never did. I never went to the person I needed to forgive and forgave them face to face, and there was no need for it. In a lot of ways, you're forgiving yourself for letting yourself go through it.
I see. I see. Yeah, that's very interesting. The premise of the whole thing. It sounds like a heck of a book. Tell us
I'm
more
very
about
excited.
it. Tell us more about the actual animals that come in, the wolves themselves.
Nano and Nala, um, they have names, and they are the actual names of dogs that lived with me in the physical for a number of years. I was aware of them before they were born, and I was aware of them when they came to me as power animals, and I became even more aware of them after they passed.
Right.
Nano was with us for 8 years.
Hmm.
He basically re-engineered my life. He found my new husband, he kept us together, he found our house, and then he died.
Wow.
And the day he died, I levitated with him, and the vet ran out of the room.
Wow.
His spirit came straight through me. I levitated, he levitated, and the vet went, "Oh my God!" and ran out.
That
And
would be
I left the
frightening.
place with this huge grin on my face going, "Oh my God." That was Nano, and Nala came to us. She was a real husky, and she came to us 6 weeks after Nano died, and was the biggest challenge we ever had. Nala had tetanus. Nala was epileptic. Nala had every ailment possible. We had to refinance our house to keep her alive.
Wow.
And after 5 years, she went lame in her back legs from tetanus. She had to survive for 2 years after the tetanus. And when she went, Nana was there to meet her.
Mm-hmm.
I closed my eyes and he was just waiting there. And since then, they both sit on my shoulders. And whenever there's an issue, I look over and I wait for their nods and I go, okay, it's good to go. Okay, it's not good to go.
So you're in touch in the physical then. In the spiritual. But they aren't physical.
I'm in touch with them in my imagination.
Oh, I see.
Yes,
okay.
Always.
Mm-hmm. All right.
And when I'm not, they get very lazy. And that's one of the very interesting things about it. And it's one of the things that I did highlight in the story, is that when you do have these animal spirits with you, you have to commune with them. Because if you get lazy, they get lazy. And when they get lazy, certain aspects of your emotional well-being go away.
Wow. Yeah, we've had a few questions. I'd like to address we have an interactive chat here. So
I switched mine off because I was getting an echo. So yeah, I can't see the chat.
Yeah, okay. So I'll just refer any
if that's
questions.
Okay with you.
Yeah, that's fine. Okay. Any questions, they're greatly appreciated. Just put them in caps so I know that they are questions, and we'll get them over to Lisa. So, what's happening with the book now? Is it going viral? Is it, because it should be?
Well, it's been live since 11/11. Mm-hmm. The release date was Black Friday, and as you know, Deborah has just begun to publicize it. The publisher's been a little slow at getting the copies out to us so that we can provide to. Excuse me, to the publications and things. Right. When I look at the Amazon rankings, there's movement.
Wow.
There's a lot more movement than my 150 friends.
Oof. Well, that's good.
But you sit in the unknown at this point, and a lot of people could go stir crazy wondering because you really don't know. And you can ask the publisher, you can ask Amazon, you can ask all these people, and they don't know either.
Wow.
It takes a while in publishing for you to figure out how many things have sold and that kind of stuff. So I have to remain in the state of trust that I have been in since I started writing A Wolf Song. That it's going to be fine.
Yeah, well, it should be okay. People are saying I'm very low. I don't know why. I got my mixer board right up high here.
It's new moon tonight. It's new moon.
Yeah, it
right
must
today.
Be. New moon. Okay.
I see a lot of people dip at new moon.
Yeah, I just got word back that it seems okay now, so we'll go with that. Anyway, let's continue. What was I remember what I was going to ask. These spirits, is there any more besides the two?
In a wolf song or for me?
Let's say in the wolf song. Yeah, let's say in the wolf song.
In a wolf song, every character in the story has a power animal. And they reveal themselves throughout the book. Mm-hmm. I hadn't planned that. They just showed up.
Wow. Now, are they all wolves?
And the crescendo at the end is wonderful. I'm not going to give it away.
Oh, no.
But the ending, the bad guy becomes the good guy and is transformed with an amazing power animal.
Wow.
And I shouldn't. I'll spoil it if I tell you. Part of the engineering of the way I write is it's written in order to put the reader into a state of receptiveness so that they can heal.
I see.
And the way I do it is by working with a technique, which is a shamanic technique, and it's called the Twisted Hair Medicine Wheel.
Okay.
It's a storytelling medicine wheel that works in the 4 directions. And I'm sure that in writing classes, they have the same kind of thing, although I haven't attended those classes, so I wouldn't attempt to name them. It's the way I explain it is, do you remember, I'm sure you went to school in the 60s, and I went to school in the 60s, and do you remember when they used to have us illustrate our sentences?
Right.
In English? They don't do that anymore?
No.
Well, I'll take a sentence and put it on the medicine wheel. I'll make sure that there's a southern aspect, a western aspect, a northern aspect, and an eastern aspect to the sentence. I do the same thing with a paragraph, with a chapter, and with the story. And what I do is I take people from the ordinary into the emotional, straight across into the mental, up to the inspiration, and then down back into the physical.
I see. Okay.
What that does is that takes people into a place that opens their heart and their belly.
Do you have something like a physical wheel that you put down somewhere? Okay.
Yes, I do.
What does that look like?
It's on paper, though. It's on
that's
paper.
okay.
It's not a physical wheel. It's a circle with the 4 directions.
Right.
And then I'll take the center, the subject matter. I put that in the center, and then I look in the south and I say, okay, what physical aspects are there? What is the part of the ordinary? Because in a story, you have to begin with the ordinary.
Right.
You have to start in a realistic situation. The curiosity, the child. And in the West, you go into the death, you go into the emotion, into the dream time. The East is the mental, the old wise one, sunrise, birth. So what you do is you create an argument, and then you go up to the north for inspiration and spirit.
I see. Okay.
You receive the inspiration and spirit, you take that down into the ordinary again, and you're changed.
Wow. I got a question in chat right now from Mustard Seed. How do we reconnect with our dogs that have passed?
I hate to make it sound so simple, but it really is. You accept that they're still there. It's a matter of acceptance that those spirits are going to be with you forever. They may not be there in the physical for you, but if you call on them, they will come to you, and you'll feel them, you'll smell them, and you'll know them.
Wow.
They may not look like what they looked like then, but they will feel the same way they felt when you smelt them, when you had them in your arms. It is a matter of trust. It's a matter of saying, okay, I'm going to be a little crazy and believe my imagination. You have to be a little crazy to believe these things.
Okay.
You have to say, keeper of the brain, you could take a break for a minute. Let my heart talk.
How did that all begin for you? Like, when did you first realize that you were having spirits with you, the animal spirits, the wolves and stuff?
When I was a child, I was one of those kids that they said I had an extraordinary imagination, or an overactive imagination. That's what they would say.
Right.
And I would come home and tell stories. And I would tell my mother they were real. I didn't connect with wolves as a child. I connected with beings that I didn't know what they were. I spoke, when I was 9 years old, for a whole year, I spoke a language that I called Phoenician. And I refused to speak any other language to anyone.
Wow.
They nearly had to take me out of school. And then it all got, what happens when you're 10, 11, and 12, they damp it down. They knock you down. They either knock you down or they send you to therapy, or they put you on drugs.
Mm-hmm.
And what happened to me is I moved to Israel, and that was a shocker, and that took me out of my imagination.
Mm-hmm.
And my imagination wasn't really awoken again until I was 50 and I joined Lynn Andrews School.
Oh, okay. All right.
I started reading her books in the early 90s,
Mm-hmm.
and I'd never read anything like it, and it was like reading something I'd written myself. It was so connected to the wisdom that she was imparting. And I waited. I kept saying I can't afford to go to her school, and then to the day that I said I can't afford not to.
Wow.
And that's when I really got into it in school.
Rocket has a question here. He says, I was being attacked in a dream, and I got a vision of my dog who came over, licking my face. Was that really my dog?
Those kind of questions, we have to ask them back.
Right.
That's when we become the mirror.
Right.
And we say, was it Rock, did you say? Rock? Is that your name?
Rocket, yeah, Rocket.
Rocka.
Yeah.
Rocka, I'm not a dream analyst, and I don't think anyone really can be a dream analyst except for yourself. It's new moon tonight. I would dream about it tonight. It's a perfect climate to ask that question. Take out a piece of paper when you're asking that question and let your hand write down the answers without your brain dictating it. There are people that will go into a dream time and start writing. That kind of technique. You are able to define answers without language. If you just write if your hand, just let your hand roll and let it do whatever it wants to do. And the intent of the spirit animal will help you realize what's going on. I am not one of the believers that I can turn around and tell you what happened in your dream. Everyone is different. Everyone sees different symbols and different things, and they mean different things based on your conditioning and your history and your ancestors and your DNA and your past lives. But new moon tonight is a very, very good time to ask that question of your higher self. Ask your higher self. And if you don't know who your higher self is, doesn't matter. Ask them anyway. They'll make themselves known to you. It's kind of like when asked somebody once, well, how do we reach the archangels? And Shanta Gabriel, who is a messenger for Archangel Gabriel, said to me, Lisa, she said, imagine all the archangels sitting down on a sofa in your living room, just sitting there waiting for you to call them. Because they can't answer your question unless you ask it.
Mm-hmm.
Did I answer your question, Raka?
Hasn't come back yet.
Okay.
He says yes. Yes. You
good.
It. Okay. All right. That's great. How do dogs, this is from Mustard Seed, how do dogs who have passed feel about new dogs taking their place?
I've never had any issues.
Wow.
Cody's sitting here going, I don't know if you hear.
This is your dog there, Cody?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Oh, let's see. You could probably, he's just lying here going, He's a wolfhound.
Wow.
And he has border collies, so he's tripolar.
Oh.
And very, very verbal. Okay. Bobby, would you repeat the question, please?
Okay.
I'm sorry.
How do dogs who have passed feel about new dogs taking their place?
There's no relevance.
No?
No. It doesn't exist. They're in the spirit. The other dogs are in the physical. Their spirits, I'm sure, communicate with others. Simba, who's with us now, he's a shepherd husky, and he was with us while Nala was here. He was 3 when Nala passed, and he was 5. He's 9 now. He went blind when Nala went.
Wow.
And there are times that he'll sit and cry. And I call Nala, and he calms down.
Wow.
But that tells me that he doesn't know to call her himself.
Right.
But when he's not happy, he's down, I call her to come and comfort him.
I see.
And he does. He lived the first 5 years of his life with sight, and he lost his sight when Nala died. So he lost 2 things. He lost.
I think we just lost sound.
Because Simba was very, very lonely.
Right.
So Cody keeps him busy, and he also leads him. Does that answer your question? I don't see any relevance to a spirit passing, and spirits aren't possessive. There's no ego. The ego's all down here.
We get another question.
But there are spirits. Let me just add something, Bobby.
Go ahead.
There are spirits that aren't all there, that are broken. Nala's spirit is broken in a wolf song. You'll see that.
Yeah, we got to get that book, that's for sure.
Please.
The question's here. Where do dogs go when they die?
The Rainbow Bridge.
Okay, can you explain that?
It's a different dimension. It's like, where do people go when they die? It's the same thing. There's a meditation that I do when I want to call in my power animals, or when I want to meet another power animal for a different purpose. And there's a place that I go that's been guided to me by Lynn Andrews, and it's a wonderful meditation. She has it on CD, and anyone can get it, and I can guide you through it. Most importantly, when you're looking for your power animals in the urethra, as they call it, you want them to either look at you in the eyes, you want them either to walk around you and cover the 4 directions. There are all kinds of things they do that indicate that they're for you.
Wow.
In Lynn's meditations, she teaches that the power animal will always walk around you, do a complete circle around you, and then look you in the face. And any of the other ones, if they don't do that, they're not your power animal. You should ignore them.
Okay. I know that we have different people in the chat that were very, very close to their animals. About 18 months ago, Ranger passed on. Mustard Seed's dog. She's very emotional about it, and she almost feels like part of her died with it.
She can reawaken that.
Wow.
What is her name?
Mustard Seed.
Hi, Mustard Seed. I thought you said the dog, that the animal had eaten mustard seed.
No.
Yeah.
Thank God, Ranger didn't eat mustard seed.
A part of you probably did die, but you can reawaken it and come back and bring that part of you back to you. And you can bring it back to you with the animal, so that the animal is always by your side in the spirit world. You won't be able to hold them. You can take them for walks. They can walk right by you when you go for your walks. You don't have to feed them. You don't have to pay the vet bills. It is really a matter of trusting yourself enough to let yourself believe that your dog is with you.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
And, you know, and when I say believe, I don't like the word believe because it means that you're working with a belief system. I prefer to say trust and open your heart, and what comes will come, and that will be the correct thing for you.
Yeah, I know how she feels. I lost mine on Canada Day, actually, July 1st. This year, I lost my dog, and it's been very lonely without her.
Well, Bobby and Mustard Seed, I would love to take both of you through a meditation where you can find your animals, reunite with them, with their spirits, and come back here and feel full.
Mm-hmm.
You do have to go through the grieving process, though.
Oh, yeah.
That grieving process is very, very important. You learn so much during that time.
Mm-hmm.
And you do need to pay very close attention to extraordinary things that you're doing that aren't your normal thing.
Mm-hmm.
I found my dad passed last summer, and I found myself doing some very, very strange things, like deleting emails without reading them from people that were very dear and close to me.
Right.
And I realized at the end of the day that I was shedding things that did not serve me. Little did I know at the time. I thought I didn't know why I was doing it. I called Lynn. I'm like, why am I doing this? These are my favorite people. She said, are they?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Wow.
I'm like, oh!
Yeah.
She said, you're grieving right now, Lisa. Everything's going to come out. Everything's going to be raw. Allow it to be and learn from it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We mustn't resent grief, sadness, darkness. We must take it by the horns and learn from it.
Right. Well, it's what we are, isn't it? Every bad thing or grieving thing that we went through in our lives made us who we are today. So.
Yes. And that's why you can be grateful for the bad things at the end of the day and forgive.
Yeah, I know that a lot of people have problems forgiving. They can't grab a hold of the idea that you have to let go.
It brings anger.
Yeah.
It brings so much anger.
Yeah.
Someone said to me the other day, well, how can I forgive them if I'm still mad at them? And how can I forgive them if I know they don't care? And I just had to go back to the same thing. It's not about them. It's about you.
Yeah. Well, we can certainly shed a lot of burden from ourselves if we do forgive.
We do. I found that I had a lot of time on my hands. I didn't know what to do with all this time. All of a sudden, there was this huge emptiness in me because all my malice was gone. And I'm like, what do I do with it? All of a sudden, I had all this time. I started writing.
It may sound silly, but about 10 years ago, up till about 10 years ago, I used to get very, very angry, very mad at other drivers. To tell you the truth, I had this road rage within me, and I thought, one lady, when I came out of the marina that we stoned, she came and cut me off, and I just screamed, and I thought, wait a minute, she has no idea what she's done. Her day is going beautiful, and I'm creating a hell of a mess for myself here. Slow down. Forget it. She didn't hit me. Go on with the day. Let it go. Just let it go. And ever since, I have loved driving. I love going out and but I got rid of all of the road rage because of that one lady. Thank God she came and,
And you
cut me
thank her
off.
now. Yes.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
I followed a woman home once. She cut me off getting onto the freeway, and I followed her home. And I had been commuting, 2 hours a day to San Francisco from Sonoma County for 6 years. And I got home that day and I said, that's it. I'm finding a job up here. My commute days are over. I said, if I'm capable of following somebody home for cutting me off. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. And you see, the thing is that we also have to remember something. That anger comes from so many different things. There are two metaphors that I can explain here. When we get hurt throughout life, every time we get hurt, we leave a little part of our spirit there. So by the time we hit our age, there's not a lot left. And it's at this age that we go back, and the beginning of the healing process is going back to all those little tiny hurts when a tiny piece of our spirit broke up, and going back and collecting all of that stardust. That's what I call it. It's like stardust. And bringing it back to yourself. Well, the same thing goes for anger. Things that piss us off, things that annoy us, things that irritate us. If we don't feed them with love when they happen and acknowledge them and see them for what they are, they too accumulate. And instead of breaking off, they add on to us.
Right.
And it's that accumulated anger that makes us blow.
Well, it's, let's say the straw that breaks the camel's back, right?
There you go.
Yeah. And,
they didn't write those sayings for nothing.
Yeah, that's true. And, everything is good and fine, and we're talking about all of this, but at the same time, we're living in a very dysfunctional society, global society, and that sort of makes it very difficult to cope. Do you think that the spirit of the animals can bring us around a little bit to be a little more passive?
I don't know if it'll bring us to be more passive, but I think if we all, and so many people are doing this now that it's escalating, if we all do a little exercise every day as we drive down the freeway or if we're doing our daily things, and every time we see something we don't like, we turn around to it and we say, I am you and you are me. I am you and you are me. I am you and you are me. It changes the vibration of our essence, and it leads us to understand what the saying, we are all one, is. We all have the social responsibility of bringing light into this world. It is our disbelief and our belief that we're powerless that stops us from doing it.
Right.
When we were kids or teenagers even, if we turned around and said, I'm going to spread light to the world, I'm just going to say good things so that it adds up to everyone else, we would be called conceited. We would be called egotists, thinking we're so powerful, or blasphemous, to say the least. We have to come out of that conditioning and believe and realize that we all count, every single one of us. And the more people that are sending light and not dark, the more light there will be.
Right.
But we can't exist without the dark. there has to be that understanding. There's never going to be a world that's all light.
Mm-hmm.
Light can't exist without dark, and dark can't exist without light. It's just physics.
Right. Well, there's a singularity, isn't there?
There is.
Throughout the
There
universe.
is a singularity, and I was thinking on my drive home today, I was thinking about sarcasm and facetiousness.
Mm-hmm.
And how, as cool people, we would teach ourselves how to be like that. Or attorneys, I mean, excuse my French here, but attorneys that have to go to asshole school,
right,
because they're really nice guys,
mm-hmm.
or girls.
Yeah.
I know attorneys that literally had to learn to be nasty.
Yeah.
Because it was part of their profession.
Right.
So you need to have that friction.
Yeah.
But there's darkness in all of us. So it's that darkness too, which is good enough. We don't need thieves, and we don't need murderers, and we don't need rapists. We don't need them to bring the darkness into our life.
Right.
And we can heal that collectively. We can only do it collectively. And by doing it collectively, we create an environment for those people to heal.
Don't you think a lot of it is a personal choice?
Well, you know, what our brains decide what choice is, and what our heart decides is a choice. Unfortunately, there's so many people that aren't even aware that they have a choice.
Yeah. Well, that's all in their programming, isn't it?
Yes, exactly.
You know, they're programmed by the elite, and this is what we do every day, and this is the way life is, and they just accept it. They don't realize they do have that choice to change.
Yes. And it's like us making a mistake and not knowing we made a mistake because we didn't know.
Right.
If you don't have the input in the first place, you can't consider it.
Right.
And that's why I think it's so important that everyone who is able to share the way they healed, that they start writing and publishing. And it's not that I'm looking for competition. I don't think there is a matter of competition. I kind of see it like, you know, on 42nd Street, you got 15 theaters, one next to the other, and there's no competition.
Right.
The same thing.
Yeah.
We're all saying the same thing. We're saying it in different ways, and we're saying it to a very varied audience.
Right.
And every person is going to have a keyword that's going to make them understand it. And one of us is going to say it for them.
Right. Yes, you're very, you know, that's very true. There's different books that I read, and it's just same old. And then all of a sudden you hit one and go, bang. That's what I'm talking about.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's what you resonate with.
Mm-hmm.
It just depends. And the way I wrote a wolf song is a method that it pulls in the innocent, unbeknownst. And they walk out of it going, oh my God, what happened?
Mm-hmm.
People that read the book come out changed.
Yeah.
I have one friend in school who calls herself a Hayoka. And basically she's the queen of the opposite. And she's not a very cheerful person, let's put it this way.
Right.
And she put a Facebook thing on, and it was like 2 days after she finished reading A Wolf's Song. She said, for the first time in my life, I'm happy.
Wow.
I can virtually say I'm happy. She didn't credit the story,
mm-hmm.
although you'll see it on Amazon. She gave me a beautiful, beautiful review on how she felt about the book. But she said, I'm happy. And I know that A Wolf Song had a lot to do with it.
Right.
It takes you through a healing that you don't even know is going on.
Maybe that's the way that we can get them to heal, right?
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's why the wolves had me write this book.
Mm-hmm.
It's extremely unassuming. I had people call it unsophisticated. My best friend called it unsophisticated.
Oh,
She
there
wrote,
we
she
go.
read the draft last year, and she goes, Lisa, I think you do more than that. It's so unsophisticated.
Political correctness. Yeah.
And I just said, darling, this is a very, very simple story. Very innocent and very light and very dark. And it is what it is. I can't change it. I can't make it cool. You have to make it cool for you. And that means talking with the ego. That's when spirit and ego have a little discussion. Who's cooler than who? You ever had that one? That's a fun discussion.
Yeah.
You're not cool enough. I don't want you.
Yeah. Who's cool? Who isn't? Yeah.
Who's cool?
Yeah. Well, it's one of
This
those.
is not a very cool book.
But it can be very profound. It can be very.
But then again, you know, a lot of people are saying it's cool. So.
Well, you can't. How do I put it? You can't please everyone.
And it's a series because I only got them to age 30.
Oh, I see. Okay.
I was on chapter 12, and I'm like, okay, book's got to end here, and they're only 30. Well, I guess there's a sequel.
Yeah,
so I'm going to start writing book 2 in January.
Oh, that's good.
And I'll just let you in on a little secret. There's a new power animal coming in.
Oh, nice.
I sat down and dreamed it, and someone else was narrating. So I'm going to have to get to know this animal spirit and see what's going on.
Do you feel like that animal is going to come into your life in the physical?
I think the animal's been in my life, and I've never acknowledged it because I've spent so much time with the wolves.
Right.
And it wants a voice, though. So, and I'm not going to tell you what, because I'm not very good at keeping secrets, so I better shut up.
Okay. Oh, yeah, it's fascinating, just totally fascinating what you've been writing here, and getting, the response that you're getting from people.
The response is phenomenal. I invite everyone to go on to my new author page and like it. You'll see responses there and reactions to people reading it now. And I'm very lucky that my circle is very, very open.
Mm-hmm.
And we do it on purpose. We're very open we put ourselves out there so that other people will feel comfortable doing it too with themselves in secret.
Right. I'd like to make mention right now that the Wolf Song picture is just below the chat, and it basically says that Tuesday, December 3rd at 6 p.m. live on PFRN, the Wolf Song with a spiritual novel with Lisa Osina, and if you just click that picture, it'll take you right over to her site. So anybody who's interested, you can go right on over there from that.
I like that little magical button. That was fun.
Yeah.
And my voice goes on, too, because there's a video there, and it switches straight on.
Right.
I'd like to tell you a little bit about the illustrations.
Okay, yeah. Let's hear about the illustrations. Go ahead.
Have you been able to look in the preview on Amazon?
No, I haven't had a chance to.
Okay, all right. If you go on to Amazon, you can see inside the book, and you can see some of the illustrations as well. Right. Susan Wagner is a woman who I went to school with Lynn Andrews, and I've always loved her art. And I wrote the book, and all of a sudden, after I had paid my money to Balboa and everything, they said, oh, you get 10 illustrations. Because I was planning on doing the cover myself, and that was it. And they said, no, you get 10 illustrations. So I called up Susan, and I said, Susan, how would you like to work on a project? And she agreed to do the illustrations and the cover art, which you've all seen, which is just gorgeous. And she said, okay. She said, tell me which ones you want to do. And I kind of gave her a little bit of script from each one, describing the illustration, kind of. Well, the first thing that happened, Cody, you're going to get it. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Attacking the cat. First thing that happened is she sent an email to me. She said, who's that wolf that keeps visiting? Is that Lynn? And I said, no, Susan, that's the author. You better listen to him. She started sending me the images. Bobby, they were the exact images that I saw.
Wow. Wow. That's beautiful.
He just took her over. She let him in, and he took over. So the illustrations are totally in sync, and if you stare at them long enough, they'll take you on a journey too. And what I did want to say is the people that are getting the ebooks are going to benefit the most from the illustrations, because they were made on computer, and you can see a lot more on screen than you can see in print.
Wow.
Thanks for letting me tell you about that.
Oh, no problem. It's fascinating, the whole thing. I can't wait to get into it. I got to get the book and.
Now that excites me.
No, it is, because we do a lot of authors here, and some of them, when they leave, it's just, oh well, another author. But this one here, I can sort of relate to. It's really sticking with me, and we have in the interactive chat the address that you can go to also, as well as just clicking the picture below. We'll leave it up for a few days, and I certainly would like to thank you. It's been a great pleasure and an honor to having you here with us, Lisa.
Thank you.
And hopefully we'll see you again real soon. Let us know when that new book is done.
Oh yes, I will definitely do that, and I will also I plan on touring the East Coast.
Wow.
In the spring, and I may well come up to Ontario.
Oh, that'd be
fabulous.
So
I will let you know. I have a lot of people in Toronto.
Oh, good.
So
yeah, we're only 100 miles away.
I may well show up.
Yeah, great.
I'm sorry?
I say we're only 100 miles away, but we do have an affiliate in Toronto. It's called the
Conspiracy Culture Bookstore.
Oh, yeah. Conspiracy Culture Bookstore down on Queen Street. Sorry, down on Queen Street. And I can hook you up with them anytime. They'd love to have it.
Thank you, Bobby. I'll shoot you an email.
Oh, definitely, for sure.
Okay, 'cause we're booking that tour right now.
Okay, great. Sounds fantastic. They also do interviews, and they bring an audience in, so that for book signings and stuff. So.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay, well, Bobby, let's stay in touch, and I really, really look forward to hearing from you after you've read the book.
Oh, I will. I'll give you a review for sure.
Also, if you have questions in the middle, just email me.
Yeah, okay. Fantastic. Great. Thanks again, Lisa. We'll see you soon, love.
Thank you, everyone.
All right.
And thank you, Bobby. It's been a real pleasure. And I just want you to know, this is my first interview.
Oh,
and I enjoyed it. Thank you.
We got the first one. Great. Thanks, Lisa. Bye-bye.
Cheers. Bye-bye.
You want to see what happens. Maybe it'll clear up. Skype, you can never trust it.
Okay.
It's one of those things.
Yeah, I usually have. So on 11/11, I meditated with my power animals, and a wolf that I hadn't dealt with before appeared and told me that he was related to the other wolves that I work with. Mm-hmm. And he said, "You'll be dealing with me for the next year." And I said, "No, I'm not. Give me my wolf back, please." And he said, "Shut up." And he started imparting the story to me. Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh my God, I don't even have to make it up. It's there. And for a whole year, he dictated the story, a wolf song. And I wrote the last sentence on 11/11/12.
Interesting.
We plan to release the book on November 29th, and it went live online on 11/11/13 with no write in English, because I was translating from Hebrew.
Oh, I see. Okay.
In 1992 or 3, I started a quartet of autobiographical novels.
Mm-hmm.
I published one with the Internet Book Company,
right.
And that was one of the first ebooks.
Wow. So you've been
actually, I think it was the first ebook that came out.
You've been writing.
There was a device called the Rocket.
Oh yeah.
And then I went to school, and I didn't really know what I was going to do with everything that I had learned in shaman school. And on 11/11/11, it was a sacred day for us, and we're told to work with our power animal.
Wow. Yeah, you still with me? Well, we're breaking up a bit here. Yeah.
You're breaking up?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay. We'll continue.
Animals as well. Each chapter has 1 or 2 lessons to it. Mm-hmm. And those were the things that the wolf did dictate to me. And he said, this chapter is about grace. This chapter is about gratitude. This chapter, you're going to teach them about the bridge to spirit through us. Mm-hmm. So I was given instructions of what needed to be done for each chapter. And when I finished the book, it was a story. It had a beginning, a middle, and an end. Wow. And there was no outline.
Mm-hmm. How do you mean, just for our listeners out there, how do you mean work with them?
I work on the premise that anything you imagined from your heart and your belly is real. Mm-hmm. When you're fantasizing from your brain and your ego, that's fantasy. Mm-hmm. However, when you're actually imagining from within, and it takes practice, it's kind of like learning how to use your knees when you bend instead of your back. And you use your belly as your brain. You use your heart as your soul. And hi, Bobby.
Hi, Lisa. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Oh, just fantastic. You've got a new book out, and we're all excited about it here at Project Freedom Radio Network. I got a poster down below the chat that says The Wolf Song. And
thank you. A Wolf Song.
A Wolf Song. When did you get into writing? Let's go there first.
I started writing I started writing in 5th grade. Wow. My 5th grade teacher encouraged me to write short stories, and my stepdad was a writer. Oh, well, so nice. I used to copy him. Oh, cool. And then we moved to Israel, and my ability to speak English and Hebrew and all the linguistics got very, very mixed up, and I didn't really have a language to write with at the time. Mm-hmm. It took me many years until I actually learned to... Oh, absolutely. No one had any idea what the significance was, but it went live on 11/11/13. It's a divine story. Everything that has happened around it. I raised $3,000 from total strangers and friends to self-publish this book at a time when people don't give money for things like that. Yeah. So that's my belief. I think it's divine. I think I've been blessed with a story that a lot of people need to hear and need to read, and that's that.
Okay, let's go through the premise of the book. What's it all about? Okay.
The book is about 2 girls and spirit wolves that enter their bodies at birth. They encounter a tragedy at about age 10, and after that they're told that they could only meet one every 10 years. So the book actually follows these two girls who become women through periods of every 10 years, every once a decade they meet. And they work with these power animals. And then everyone else, all the other characters in the book, have